This is the Air Check. The Air Check with Mike Lemons.
The Air Check with Mike Lemons.
Welcome to another edition of the Air Check. I'm Mike Lemons. This is a show where we catch up with successful graduates of the radio broadcasting program. And today I'm excited. We're joined by a former music director in our program and someone who's been with the Dave Glover Show in St. Louis for 5 years now. And that's Rachel Zimmerman. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my gosh, Mike, thank you for asking me to come on. I'm truly honored.
Well, you know, catching up with students, it's one great thing about doing this job, as long as I have, is that you get to know a lot of people. Problem with that is sometimes you don't get to talk to people often enough. So I'm glad that you're with us this morning. So you came through the program, this would have been 2010, 11, 12 area, somewhere in there, correct?
Yeah, so I graduated from high school in 2009 and then started with 89.9 that fall.
And then you became our music director, and you did that for a year, right? We'll talk about some of those times and some of those music meetings in just a second. So catch us up now. Many of people who are watching this know that you're with the Dave Glover Show. As you told me off air, you've been with the show for about 5 years. It seems a little longer, but about 5 years now. You guys are going through some changes too. So just kind of catch us up on your career. Once you left here, you started interning, and kind of fill us in.
Yeah, so when I left 89.9, I had about a year where I was just working at Radio Shack. And then I went for an internship with the Dave Glover Show at 97.1. And I just, kind of like when I first entered 89.9, I wasn't expecting to love it the way I did. I felt the same way interning for that show. I just completely fell in love with it. I fell in love with talk and did that internship. Was really hoping to get hired after it, and thankfully I was. So I was hired as just a part-time board op, and did that for 3 years. So anyone who's done that position knows that it's kind of rough. You are pretty much taking whatever scraps that they can give you and trying to cobble it together into something resembling a full-time job. So that means some weeks you're working 60, 70 hours because that many people are requesting you, and other weeks you have like 6 hours. So did that for 3 straight years. It was rough, but it built a lot of character, and it taught me how to do pretty much everything at that radio station. So it was a very valuable time. And then Dave's producer was leaving, and he was looking for someone to replace him on the show. And, was talking to all of these people in the area and just thought to himself, or this is what he's told me anyway, I don't know any of these people. They seem nice, but I don't know them. I know Rachel Zimmerman. I know that she's a hard worker. She's 24, so she doesn't have, this Rolodex that a lot of more experienced people have had. But I've seen that she works hard and is willing to learn. So I'm going to take a chance on her. So I'm, forever grateful to him for giving me that amazing chance when I was 24. And, now I'm turning 30 next month, and I've been with the show for 5 years. And yeah, that's how I ended up where I am now. I was a producer up until about 2 months ago, and now I'm just air talent with our switch to KMOX.
So that switch to going back first to talk about how you did the producer job, and a lot of our students, this career path in radio, you either go to small markets and build your way back in, or you start part-time in a large market like you have in St. Louis, and you grow it from there. And I can tell you, Rachel, as you know, you've seen a lot of our students since you've been there come through over the years, and that's what you do, right? If you're going to go a large market right away, that's great, but it may not be full-time, and you hope to get it there, and you have. So congratulations on that. So let's talk about this switch, right? So you're with a company called CBS. CBS is bought by Intercom. Intercom now changes its name to Odyssey to try to be everything audio, and all of us are trying to help people rethink of what radio is now. We'll talk about that more too, but now you're on KMOX. This is the mighty Mox, right? This is KMOX. This is one of the most respected stations across the country. How has that been so far?
Yeah, so we're about 2 months into being on KMOX, and it's a dream come true for me. So I actually never worked for CBS. I worked for MS St. Louis, and then they got bought by Intercom in January of 2018. So we moved over to what was formerly the CBS building, was now Intercom. And basically from the minute that I walked into those doors and I saw the way that KMOX moved so quickly and just the way they do things, I was like, this is kind of my jam. Um, I just love that they have the newsroom. I love that it's like, let's hit the brakes at a certain time. Let's get it together. Let's be professional. I think that's stressful for some people, and it's still stressful for me in a sense. But once you've gotten into talk radio, like as a art form, KMOX is just like the top tier. So whenever we found out we were making that switch, I was thrilled. I was ready for the challenge. 97.1 is a great radio station, and it's a scrappy little radio station. It was the first talk station on FM, from what I understand, 20 years ago, whenever it started. But it was pretty loosey-goosey. Like, it was very experimental. You could blow past things if you wanted. You could kind of just, figure out what you wanted to do, and it was very free-flowing. And I liked that, but I like the challenge of fitting into this, like, regimen more.
Yeah, you talked about everything being on time and not blowing past the brakes. And what a lot of people listening or watching us now may not realize is a lot of that is very scientific, and how breaks come and how long people are going to listen through a break and at what time of the hour. And KMOX, obviously, they've been doing something that type of thing for years. But back timing might come in more into play now than it ever has, I would guess. So you're at a talk radio station now. You've been doing talk for 5 years. You mentioned how you went to do an internship, and it wasn't necessarily it wasn't something you thought you might love. You were music director here when you were with us and picking alternative rock music, and this probably wasn't the path you thought that you would take. But that's happened with a lot of our students. We have a lot of students doing well in country radio, and that's something they never thought would happen either. So you didn't think you'd be in talk radio when you were here, did you?
No. I was definitely a music snob when I was at 89.9, and I thought that I was gonna just like immediately get a job on 105.7 The Point and like be the next Lux, which I love Lux, by the way. And it doesn't happen like that. They don't just hire you to do that. They don't just go like, oh, so you like all the good bands, great, you're in charge now. That's not how it works.
Right.
You start at the very bottom of the totem pole and try to work your way up. So with the Dave Glover show, it was my friend Andrew was a producer on the show. That's how I learned about the internship. And when we started doing it, so if you've never heard Dave's show, it's a lot of comedy, but it's also a lot of just like thought-provoking content, conversations that maybe you wouldn't normally hear on the radio. And I got sucked into that really quickly. Sure. It was kind of a podcast before podcasts became super, super popular. That kind of conversation, kind of rambling, kind of getting in the weeds and really digging in. I had never heard that before. I always thought of talk radio as just like, here's the news, and that's great. And that's kind of, what KMOX does more. But with this, to take like kind of the free thinking of the Glover show and plug it into this new format, and hopefully we're creating something that's totally new. But yeah, never thought I would be in talk, never even considered it. And now that I'm here, I just can't imagine, doing anything else. This is what I'm passionate about now.
And you do a great job too, by the way.
Thank you. I would just encourage like any of your students who think that they have to do this a certain way, loosen up on that a little bit, because you're very young. Life is going to come at you and give you, all these different opportunities that you can't even imagine right now. Like anything could happen, and you should stay open to it, because like I said, I didn't think I would be doing this, and now this is my passion in life. So just kind of keep an open mind about it.
And, we try to do that. And I think you might remember me saying when you were here, keep your options open, keep your mind open. We're going to teach you radio regardless of our formats. We could be alt rock. We could switch to country tomorrow, and we're still going to teach you certain aspects of radio. We don't do a whole lot of just straight talk here just because, there's a lot of areas we don't want to dive into in a taxpayer-supported institution. I want to talk to you more about doing talk radio, but you brought up something about how it was a podcast before podcasts were a thing. And, we've taught how to do podcast here. And basically, would you agree podcast really just radio on demand? kind of, right? I mean, it's you're really doing the same thing. It's just the delivery, where you choose to place that and how people access it is what's changed. What changes have you seen? And, we're making changes here to try to become a visual medium, so students will be interested, so we can teach them new things. What have the changes been like that you've seen in the last, several years or last few years? And what is the direction of radio? And is it just us trying to change people's mind on what radio is today?
I think changing people's mind on what radio is hits it like exactly. I've seen a dramatic shift towards making everything digital. So even though you're doing, your typical on-air show, there is this huge push to make these into on-demand segments, tweet out links, just spread it as far as you possibly can, get those clicks online. So that's probably been the biggest change versus when I started doing this in 2013. It was just like, we're doing a show, and if we feel like putting something online, maybe we will. Now it's a huge priority. And then I've seen much more of a shift towards what we're doing right now. We're doing a podcast, but it's on camera, and that's so that it's more palatable to share on social media. You are going to be captivated by watching someone speak rather than when you're on Facebook, that is,
Sure.
rather than just like sitting and listening to a voice file. So I'm really happy to see that WLCA is making this shift and giving this, extra skill for their students to learn. I think it's just absolutely invaluable. I will value my education at WLCA forever because I feel like it was so much hands-on experience. And this is just going to be a whole other category that these students can add to their resume.
Well, I appreciate that, Rachel, and how you feel about here. And I tell people all the time, whenever they have praise, I'm like, it's really the students, right? I mean, you could just open the door and show them some things. It's what the students do. And we're hoping that by having this new technology and having students be able then to go do internships or get jobs and say, hey, not only can I sit behind a microphone and talk, I can do all these producing skills as well. So thank you for that. Without getting into politics too much, you work for a station where a lot of the content is very politically charged. And over the past, several years, it seems like we've been more divided. Your show never really felt that way to me when I listened. I mean, you delved into the politics some, but probably not near as much as other shows at the station. I guess there's good and bad in that too, right? I mean, tell me about that experience and what did you really like about it and what wasn't so fun?
So again, like I feel like I'm just, praising the Dave Glover show, but I obviously really love being there. I have always appreciated the fact that our show doesn't have an agenda. There are certain shows you listen to and you pretty much know what their take is going to be on any given issue. We really try to talk to people as if, you're at a barbecue or you're at a happy hour or something. What do regular people think? How do they feel? What's really going on? And that's been great. There have been some conversations that I'm just so proud of, and I'm just so proud to put them on the air to talk about difficult stuff without feeling like you are, trying to please any particular group of people. It's very freeing to be able to do that. However, the political climate in the past couple of years, especially, you're right, it's completely, I want to say, out of control. I think people have a hard time hearing things that they don't like. I don't remember having this issue, 5-10 years in the past. Maybe it's just that social media is so much more popular and is used by so many people, but you do get people who want to pick apart every little thing you say or, call you mean things, call you names, tell you you're stupid because you're not saying exactly what they think you should say. And that's tough, but it's also, you learn to deal with it. I'm a pretty sensitive person. I don't like conflict with other people. So that's been an immense personal challenge for me to figure out how to deal with it. But I do firmly believe that it's made me stronger by having to learn those skills. So, just try to see it as a life lesson.
we teach this, right, in part of our media courses, and understand the message, understand the motivation behind the message, and you get why, some hosts become so bombastic, right? I mean, they're over the top, and there's a reason for that, right? They're entertainers, and they want to appeal to their audience, but it's created, the phrase that people use a lot is echo chambers, right? To where you gravitate and you go to the area that's most comfortable for you, that you're not willing to listen to anything else. And hopefully we can get back, or at least there's some popularity that comes from hearing both sides of stories. So I can tell you there was something that happened, Rachel. I don't remember the exact thing, but I had been listening to the Glover show, and there was a negative comment made about the show and you, I think, and I immediately wanted to dive in and attack this person, right? Because I'm like, you're not doing that to Rachel. Don't do that. But that's what those people want, right? They want you to, they want to poke you and to bring you back in. So I applaud you for being able to navigate that. And I know that you're kind of a sensitive person, and I'm glad that you've been able to get through that. So good on you for that.
Thanks for having my back, Mike. That's going to make me feel better the next time I get him.
Well, just send me a message, Mike. They're picking on me, and maybe I'll jump in. So let's go back then. Let's go back to when you were a student here. I remember some of your classmates when you were here, and I have fond memories of many of those. There are memories I have that aren't as fond about some things that have happened, but that's college, and that's part of the experience. Things that may have made me angry then, but I look back now and kind of laugh and realize that just adds to the experience of what this place is. A broad overview, what was your time like here? And then we'll get into some specifics and stories if you can remember some of those.
Oh, my time like at WLCA. A lot of people talk about high school as the best years of their lives, and that was not the case for me. I think back on my time at Lewis and Clark and 89.9 as it's just so nostalgic for me. If I could get in a time machine and experience 24 hours in any period of my life, it would be that. I had a lot of fun. It's funny, you're right. It's funny to think back at some of the drama you experience at, 18 and 19 years old in the radio program, and you just roll your eyes and laugh now. But overall, it was such a great learning experience for me. It really developed me into the person that I am today. So I was very, very shy growing up, painfully shy. And the radio program it doesn't allow you to be shy anymore. You have to break out of it. You have to find your voice. So for me, putting on my headphones and hearing my voice through a microphone, that was so empowering for me. And I'm sure you've had other students tell you that, people who were really shy and didn't know how to speak up. Just gaining all the experiences that I gained, the friendships that I had, the time spent, in the music office, listening to different CDs and trying to figure out what would sound good on the station. It was just, it was such an amazing time. And I credit it so much to my growth as a person. Who knows, if I would have went into a different program at Lewis and Clark, I might have never been able to sit and do a podcast like this. I would have been too nervous or too timid or had no idea what to say. I was able to really figure out how to talk and how to hone those skills in the radio department.
We had a reunion about 5 years ago, and we had students that come back and would say, hey, I'm not in radio anymore. I was never in radio. However, the confidence I gained in the program and being comfortable enough with speaking and sharing my ideas, and it's helped them in their careers. And I try to tell students that early on. I think the most important thing we can do for you, we're going to try to prepare you for a career in this business, but gaining confidence and working through some of those defense mechanisms we throw up and some of those other things is really going to benefit you down the road. And that's the ultimate goal for me, is to have a better communicator, a more confident person, because if we have that, it's going to help them succeed, whether they go into broadcasting or media in general or not at all. So I'm glad you mentioned that, but it was uncomfortable at first, right? I mean, that very first week, I have you guys speaking in front of a group of people that you don't even know, and it's kind of like, let's just dive in, and if you make a mistake, we're going to laugh, but we're going to laugh at everybody's mistakes, and that is okay, but those first moments are pretty frightening, yeah?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I remember my first day in the program. We had a class, and then there was a 10-minute break. Maybe it was a 2-hour long class. I don't remember, but it was one of your classes. And we had a little bit of a break, and everyone's going down and getting snacks out of the vending machine and standing around and talking and getting to know each other. And I was so shy that it's just like tried to avoid everyone. I like walked to a different area of campus because I just didn't even know like how to begin talking to people. And then you cut to, you know, the end of your first semester and you're coming in at midnight to bring supplies to the second years for the 89 hours at Christmas, and you know everyone and they're your new best friends. I mean, it was just such a drastic change after that first semester. And then I just feel like it got better and better from there. I gained so much confidence. I gained so many skills. I loved production class. I loved copywriting, just all those things. You're absolutely right. You don't have to want to necessarily make radio a career to really benefit from WLCA and the program at Lewis and Clark. I mean, I would encourage anyone who struggles with shyness, who struggles with public speaking, or anyone who just wants to gain, you know, life skills that most people don't pick up on. Most people don't know how to record audio and cut it up, or, you know, create this kind of audio visual presentation that you're doing right now. That's really valuable in any sort of job you're going to enter into, to have that edge.
We created these podcasting courses, and most of our courses have prerequisites of other broadcasting courses. We created this podcasting course to where anyone on campus could take it. So someone who's studying nursing or someone who's studying automotive, this is a skill they could bring to a potential employer by being able to do something like this. So you're spot on. I mean, we're trying to be able to make sure that anyone could use this. So do you remember a specific time, or do you remember a good story, a bad story? You know, Rachel, I'll tell you this, and I think I told you this before. I always saw something in you that, you know, I thought, wow, just don't cheat us. And I don't know if I remember if you remember me having the conversation with you saying, don't cheat us, don't rob us from getting to know who Rachel is, right? And now people get to hear you and know who you are now, which is fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Man, I have so many good memories. And I have a lot of like, oh, why did I do that? Why did that happen kind of memories too. Let's see. I remember I guess it was my second year. We were doing the 89 hours of Christmas, and it was right when the Riverbend Community Center became like a huge deal in downtown Alton. And I think One Lone Car was playing, and it was like, Rachel, you're going to interview the band with your friend Pat, and like sitting at the front of the community center, and like we've got our remote mics, and like, oh, gonna talk to the band, gonna interview them. It was such like, it made me feel like such a big deal at the time. And that was like a really big confidence boost. But no, just like all the different music meetings, all the like the little fights you get into with people, all the little arguments because you're taking it so seriously. Like I look back on all of that pretty fondly. Sorry if those aren't very good stories.
No, that's okay. You know, other students wanted to share stories about when I yelled at them. I don't know why they went down that road, but
I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I'm like, yeah, I have this podcast with Mike Lemons and yada yada, and they were like, oh, he seems like a pretty smart guy, and I said, yeah, I wish I would have listened to him more when I was in college, because I could have benefited. So kids, listen to Mike, trust me.
I think you've done just fine. So let me ask you, as we're changing into this new way of offering things, this new format, and doing video podcasting and doing more social media, I need to ask you your advice now. What do I need to help prepare students, or to at least get them excited about doing this in general, and then what can we do to make sure that they succeed?
It's a great question. With social media, I would definitely prepare them that not everything you see is going to be happy and fun. Social media is kind of turned over a rock in our society, and we get to see all the creepy crawly stuff underneath.
Right.
Sometimes it's going to bum you out, but you just have to keep in mind that that's a pretty small percentage of people. Even if you're getting absolutely flamed on something, it's only the people who care enough to take time out of their day to leave a negative comment. And I don't know about you, but that's just not me, and that's just not really the people that I spend time with. So just you know, encourage them to right size all of these things that are happening. Don't let negativity stop you from going for the things that you want. As far as the podcasting program, I would just I think interviews are really, really important. Even if it's just students interviewing each other, it's a skill that most people do not have this skill. They could they could sit down with, their biggest idol, their biggest hero, and get scared and not know what to ask them. So that's something that you can, even if you're just interviewing your classmate for fun, try to think of questions that are going to make them look good. Try to think of things that they can speak on, and they can expand on and make interesting. Just learn, and through practice, you will get really, really good at that. It's not something that like, oh, they're a really good interviewer because they're just naturally talented. Like, no, it's a skill you work at like everything else, but it's a very valuable one to have.
Sure, and we still do. I think you remember the 5-minute shows. We still do those. So that's where we try to introduce people into that to, hey, go get the interview and then prepare for the interview and then conduct the interview and make sure you pull all of that off. We have a couple of students now who have really gotten into the software. We have a sports guy who we stream a sports show live on Saturday mornings for 2 hours, and our music director interviews not local bands, but indie artists from all across the country. So we're creating some of the content that way, and it's exciting. I remember our sports guy did an interview with Ricky Horton, the Cardinal broadcaster, and he was so nervous beforehand, and he kind of eased up when they were talking off air, and this was the second time he had interviewed him, and Ricky said, "Oh, Ethan, no problem." He goes, "You remind me of a young Danny McLaughlin," which made Ethan kind of like freeze up. But you're talking about, interviewing your idols or people that you've looked up to. One thing, Rachel, that's been unfortunate for us over the past year, COVID's really hit everyone in a different way. We're not alone in the fact that COVID's made a major impact on everybody's lives throughout the whole world. It's the students who haven't been to be able to be here on campus and enjoying some of the things and being with other students. I mean, when you're a music director, one of the luxuries of being music directors, you had first right of refusal on concert tickets, right? And that was a rule that we had. So not being able to do that and hang with other students really, that sucks for them. And I'm glad that that's going to come back this year. But did you take advantage of that? Did you go to many shows when you were here? Something tells me that you did.
Yeah, I did. I that was one of the big motivators of wanting to be a music director. Besides the fact that as I mentioned, I was a music snob. I was a real jerk about it. I've lightened up quite a bit in my older age, but no, yeah, I loved getting concert tickets. I had never really been to a like real concert. I'd been to like stuff like Fair St. Louis, and I had seen Bob Dylan with my dad at the Fox, which was really cool. But when I started going to the pageant, that was 100% because of 89.9. And to this day, I'm just obsessed with that venue. I think St. Louis is so lucky to have it. And, now we have Delmar Hall. But anytime there was a band coming through, and especially if they were at the pageant, I wanted to try to go because I knew it was going to be an amazing show. And just the exposure you get to different kinds of bands on WLCA is almost worth being in the radio program by itself. You just make all of these discoveries, and if you are a music nerd, you're gonna walk away from your 2 years in the program with just like this whole new look at it. Like you're gonna discover the coolest new bands working at 89.9.
Well, you mentioned we're lucky to have the pageant. They've been great friends of ours for years. So St. Louis is lucky to have the pageant, and St. Louis is lucky to have Rachel Zimmerman on the radio. And I appreciate you so much for joining me today. It's been fun catching up.
It was a blast. Thank you so much for asking me.
You'll come back sometime and maybe be a guest speaker in class?
Yes, for sure.
All right.
I would love to.
Fantastic. That's Rachel Zimmerman. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Air Check. I'm Mike Lemon. See you soon.